Hi, welcome to my channel, or welcome back, hopefully. I'm Chris. I like talking about films and books and games, and I love making videos about films, books and games. And maybe you like watching those videos too, and that is exactly why you're here. Today you join me on the floor in my living room as we're going to go through the bookshelf, and we're going to do a full top to bottom bookshelf tour. This video is also largely unscripted. In fact, I have no laptop in front of me whatsoever, so a lot of it's going to be ad-libbed. I'm going to try and go through each book relatively quickly, otherwise I think this will be like an hour-long video, and I don't have a ton to say about everything because I've not read everything on the shelf. We're going to start like all videos do, and we're going to do it at the very top. So we do actually have a fair bit of overspill on the shelf, because we have quite a diddy one, and we do try to kind of clear it out semi-regularly, but floating on the top of the shelf we have got Butcher's Crossing by John Williams, the author of Stoner that you'll probably have heard of because it does the rounds a lot on the internet. Butcher's Crossing is a western that he wrote about a man that basically sacks off his time at university to go and join a bunch of cowboys in the Wild West as they go on an adventure to basically skin thousands of buffaloes in this kind of like little untouched paradise that no one's heard of. It's a really, really good book. It's really short. You'll fly through it really quickly. I strongly recommend this one, especially if you loved Stoner and if you loved Lonesome Dove. We've also got Into the Wild by John Krakauer. You'll probably have heard of this book because of the Sean Penn film. It's very, very much like the film. Again, it's really short. You'll fly through it really quickly, and it's a really sad book as well, but one to read if you're thinking of like escaping it all. Bit of a common theme between those two books there. And then we've got The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which I actually found on the street. The street that I live on, loads of people just leave books out the front of their house, and sometimes there's some gems in there, sometimes it's a lot of kind of like best-selling thriller fiction. But I'd had heard of this book and decided to pick it up, and I think it's to do with, I want to say it's to do with, is there anything in the front about this book? It's something to do with Czechoslovakia, I think. There's something overtly political about this book. Maybe when I'm editing this, I'm going to need to research it and double check what it's about. But it's one of those books that I think you've got to be in the right mood for, maybe. But again, it's kind of short. Haven't read it. Let me know in the comments if you have. And then we get to the actual shelf itself. And the first book we've got on the bookshelf proper is The Impossible Climb by Mark Sinnott. Now, this is a book that I have read and I recommend to anybody. You know, you don't even have to be into climbing, I don't think, but if you've seen Free Solo on Disney Plus, or if you've seen Mark Honnold climb that massive skyscraper on Netflix, then definitely give this a read. It's so compelling, and it's basically this kind of sports writer follows Alex Honnold as he's climbing El Cap, which was the basis of the Disney Plus documentary, and it also just gives you kind of a brief overview of Alex Honnold's backstory, but also the backstory of climbing as a scene and how it kind of ties with the sort of skater and surfer scene in America. It's a little bit chunky, but it's a super easy read, and I really did enjoy this, and I think that's why I've hung on to it for so long. Normally when we read books and we, you know, have absolutely no desire to read them again, we do donate them, or we sell them on Vinted, or we give them to family and friends, but this is one I've hung on to because I think I'll want to reread. And also I really want my partner to read it, so that's why I've hung on to it. Then we've got Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I've tried to read a couple of times. I think I just hit the same wall every time. And I think maybe some Halloween time I might read it again, or maybe, I don't know, if I finally watch the Francis Ford Coppola film, maybe I might give it a go. But it's just one of those classics. You'll see it in every charity shop you go to, but one that maybe I'll just read eventually. Then we've got the like small philosophy section that I've got on this bookshelf that I think it was at the beginning of this year. I kind of had this brief flirtation with philosophy and how I was like, should I be reading philosophy? I think I should be reading philosophy because it might just have some, you know, ponderings on life that might be quite valuable and important to me. So I've got Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. I've also got Epictetus, Discourses and Selected Writings, and I've also got some Aristotle in there as well. I've only actually dabbled in Epictetus. I think it's one of the more readable of the three. I've got maybe like a quarter of the way through it, but it's stuff that requires actual attention and rereading and thought, and I think maybe I'd get on better with this stuff if I actually had somebody to read it with, or a group to read it with, and you know, if I had like a seminar I could go to and we could unpack it together, I think this would be really helpful. But, you know, I'm very much a noob when it comes to philosophy writing. So if you've got any thoughts about these, or any philosophy writing in general, modern or classical, let me know in the comments, because I think I'd really, really benefit from your input. And then we've kind of come to the Penguin modern classic and classic section of the bookshelf. We've got Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, which, you know, we've sort of seen doing the rounds a lot online recently. It's a sort of non-fiction piece about braiding sweetgrass, indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plants, which I think will be really, really nice when we get around to reading that. Haven't read it yet, though. We've also got Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind, The New Science of Psychedelics. There's also a Netflix documentary about this book. It's really, really fascinating, and it really kind of opened my mind to the sort of science behind psychedelics and all the scientific research that's happened into psychedelics over the years. Basically, Michael Pollan unpacks all the scientific history about different psychedelics, and he actually takes some himself and talks about his experience of them. I think he takes things like psilocybin, he takes LSD, maybe he takes ketamine as well or something. And he kind of talks about different like psychotherapy that involves psychedelics, like people that are coming towards the end of their life and are trying to deal with terminal illnesses with psychedelics. And it is just really, really eye-opening. And I do kind of recommend it to everyone, even if you've never taken a psychedelic in your life. I know I haven't, and it's really, really good. This is going to take me a long time to get through this video if I'm going at that kind of speed. Then we've got The Trading Game by Gary Stevenson. If you are from the UK, you might have heard of Gary Stevenson. He's like a big kind of online political individual, and he's kind of the one that's really pushing the tax wealth not work agenda that's going on in the UK. He used to work in trading in Canary Wharf, and this is just basically his biography. If you've seen things like BBC's Industry, that drama show, it's a little bit like that. There's a lot of crossover. Really fascinating book, good one to read when you're on holiday or something. Then we've got 2 books by Naomi Klein. We've got Doppelganger and The Shock Doctrine. I've actually talked about both of these books on another video. She's a non-fiction political writer, political philosopher. I'm not quite sure how you describe her, but she's written about climate change, and she's written about, you know, the shock doctrine, which is about how governments kind of use big, terrible moments to kind of push their political agenda along. And Doppelganger is really, really good if you want to read about something that kind of tries to unpack what's going on with online discourse and left-right thinking and thought and, you know, identification maybe. Then we've also got The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which is another book that I've talked about on another video on this channel, so I won't go into too much detail, but if you're into books, you've probably heard of it, haven't you? Then we come to my pride and joy. It's the John Steinbeck section of the bookshelf, which I'm not going to pull out. Well, maybe I ought to, really. Okay, of the John Steinbeck collection, East of Eden, one of the best books I've ever read. We've got The Moon is Down, a book of his that I've not read, but is a non-fiction propaganda piece about him going to Europe and writing about World War II for the American government, I think. We've got The Winter of Discontent, maybe one of my favourite ones by his. I really, really like this one. It's really sad, really poignant. We've got Travels with Charlie, another just absolute non-fiction banger by him. Him and his dog drive around America in the 1960s, and he writes about the America that he kind of forgot, remembered, and is trying to get back in touch with. The Log of the Sea of Cortez. This is basically an Animal Crossing game, but in a book and written by John Steinbeck. Cannery Row, another one of his shorter ones that I think you'll blitz through in a day if you want to get one under your belt. And then we've got The Journal of a Novel, which when he was writing East of Eden, his friend gave him a notebook to sort of write in, and he would write, you know, one page would be a letter to his friend about writing the book, and then another page would be him actually writing the book. And I think this is kind of a collection of all those letters that he wrote to his friend whilst he was writing East of Eden. I've sort of dabbled in it a little bit, but I think one day soon I'll get through it and give it a read, because it's just him writing about his writing chair and his writing equipment and stuff like that. It's really quite nice. So back they go. Then to finish off the Penguin Modern Classics, we've got Hell's Angels by Hunter S. Thompson. You've probably, you know, if you've heard of Hunter S. Thompson, you've definitely heard of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And this is his book about his time spent with the Hell's Angels. On this bookshelf, I've also got Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 1972, where he follows the campaign trail he follows George McGovern and Richard Nixon's campaigns in the 70s. So 2 kind of sort of books about America, which we like on this channel. We've also got Seiichi Matsumoto's Tokyo Express and Suspicion that I read both whilst I was in Tokyo, which was really nice and vibey. I also read one of these on the Shinkansen as well, which is quite a nice way to read these. But they're both kind of like little crime thrillers that you feel like you'd watch on the Criterion channel on like a nice 1950s Blu-ray. So they're quite fun. We've also got John le Carré's The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which I've not read yet, but I have read Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and loved it. Also saw a stage play of this and it was extremely good, which is what encouraged me to buy his books and read them. And then we've also got James Baldwin's Notes on a Native Son, which I've read 1 or 2 essays from, I think. I really want to read Giovanni's Room before I get to stuff like this, but this is pretty high on my list that I need to actually just get around and read because it's so short. And thus concludes the Penguin Modern Classics section of the bookshelf. Then we've got Haruki Murakami's What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, a book of his that I have actually reread a couple of times because I have been big into running in the past, and the way that he writes about running is just really fun and he's really inspirational. There's a really good article of Harry Styles interviewing Haruki Murakami, and they talk about running and they talk about art and writing and music. I think they did it for Runner's World and it's just really good. It's a really good vibe. Big recommendation for me there. You'll fly through it as well. Then we've also got I Who Have Never Known Men. This is my partner's. This is a book that I really do need to read. Then we've got Night Bitch and My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which both belong to my partner as well. She's big into her weird women literature. Then we've got Stephen King's It and The Dark Tower Volume 3, The Wastelands. I have read the first 2. I then kind of hit a little bit of a wall with it, but I think I will get back to this series at some point because it is just really strange and bizarre. And I think it'd be just quite nice to finish a Stephen King series finally. That brings us on to the second part of the shelf. So we've got a Elena Ferrante section that belongs to my partner, all in Italian, and we've also got some other Italian novels. We've got some Cognetti. We've also got a Italian version of an Ishiguro novel because my partner is Italian and she likes to read Italian novels. We've also got we've also got this zine that I made a few years ago, which is just a zine with some essays written by me and my friends about films and music and books that we really liked. I wrote mine on Minari, which was a really sort of breakthrough film for me and kind of redefined the kind of films that I'm into. And then we've also got some Senate magazines, which are little board game magazines, which are really, really lovely. Sometimes we go to the Board Game Expo in Birmingham and they're always there. So it's always nice to pick up 2 or 3 copies from them and just have a nice chat with them because they're really lovely. Then we've got The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. I think this is something that my partner won from another creator in a competition. We've also got Monster by Claire Dederer. Claire Dederer? How do you say that? And then we've also got Joan Didion's The White Album, which I bought last summer. Again, still have not read this yet, but I have read My Year of Magical Thinking by her, and it was very poignant and touching and difficult. So someday I'll give this a go, I think. Then we've got 2 David Gran books. We've got Because of the Flower Moon and The Wager. The Wager I really, really loved, and I also really loved Because of the Flower Moon film, so I can't wait to read the book as well. I hear it's frustratingly upsetting. Then we've got Philip Mayer's The Sun, which is a Western story. I can't remember where I got this. I think I got it off World of Books. I know that there's a TV adaptation of this with Pierce Brosnan, I think, but it's kind of like a big American West epic told through different generations of this family. It's a little bit of a chunky one, so I think I've got to be in the mood for a big American epic before I read something like this, I think. Then we've got Quentin Tarantino's Cinema Speculation, which I think I just bought randomly from a Waterstones when I saw it. And basically it's just like a big exploration of movies from the 70s that defined him. And it really got me onto like 1970s American cinema because it's definitely a different kind of beast to everything else that came out in different decades. And I know Quentin Tarantino is quite an acquired taste, but this book is actually really readable and really infectious, and I think it will get you really excited about American cinema from the 70s, so I strongly recommend it. And I've hung on to it because I think I maybe would want to reread it someday and do something on it. It'd be really fun to like watch the films that he mentions and do a little kind of review of them and stuff like that. Then we've also got Half the World by Joe Abercrombie. I've read the first one and my uncle kindly lent them to me, so I'm kind of reading them slowly so we have something to talk about. Then we've got Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. We've got this because we really do genuinely like Twilight. We find it really, really comforting and enjoyable. And we did go to Portland to kind of visit all the different filming locations. So we bought the book to read whilst we were there or before we were there. And honestly, this book is so bad, I got halfway through it and thought, I can't read this anymore. But someday I will finish it, just because it is really comforting and nostalgic and sort of silly. And it's Twilight, you know. I'm not going to dunk on Twilight. It's Twilight. It's its own beast, you know. We've got Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger. I really love Catcher in the Rye, which I've actually got on this shelf that I completely skipped over. And this is one that I think people say, like, if you really like Wes Anderson, you should read this, because it's kind of similar to things like The Royal Tenenbaums and stuff like that. So, again, it's so small, I should just read it one summer, or like read it on holiday or something and get it over and done with. We've got Jesus and John Wayne, which is a book that I've talked about on my to be read list. And we've also got The Oregon Trail by Rinke Buck, which is a book that I saw when we were in Portland, in Powell's City of Books, and it was just everywhere. And it's basically about a guy that I think does the Oregon Trail in modern day and then writes about it as well, and kind of writes about the history of it. Yeah, I do really like a non-fiction book. I love a book about the history of America, so I will read this someday. It's a really nice, like, floppy American edition as well, and it's got a nice texture to it. This isn't an ASMR channel. We're on the home stretch now. We're on the last shelf of the bookshelf. So we have got the Walt Disney biography by Bob Thomas. This is one that I think I picked up from, I want to say, a charity shop. Yeah, it's got Oxfam on the back. I'm a big, Disney adult. I really do love the kind of the history of Walt Disney. I really love the history of like the Walt Disney parks and Pixar. I've read a couple of books on Pixar, and the Imagineering story on Disney Plus is really, really good. So I just kind of want to, I don't really know a lot about Walt Disney himself, so I bought this with that in mind. But it is just, again, quite a big, chunky book. It's quite large, not really easy to carry around with you, but one that I think I'll read. Like, maybe I should just go to Disneyland again and read it, and that might encourage me to read it. Then we've got Everybody Loves Our Town by Mark Yarm. This is a book that I bought years ago. I bought this when I was at university, like almost 10 years ago now, I want to say. And it's basically like an oral history about grunge in Seattle. I think I bought this because I was kind of really big on Nirvana at the time, and I was writing a dissertation on Nine Inch Nails and their film soundtracks, and I kind of thought maybe I was going to write something about grunge and Nirvana and MTV, but didn't in the end. Again, it's quite a large book, so I think it's going to be one that, like, I'm going to have to read when I'm really, really in the mood for this. I've also just recently, like, deleted Spotify and cancelled my subscription, so my actual understanding of my music taste is so strange now, because it's not kind of informed by playlists or algorithms anymore. And I really am going to just have to go to, like, record stores and CD shops to try and figure out what I want to listen to again. So maybe reading something like this might give me something to listen to at the same time. That might be quite a fun thing to do someday. Then we've got A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen Peck. Very short book, one that you'll have heard of loads if you watch this kind of content on the internet. Very thought-provoking, good sort of like discussion book, but didn't really do it for me that much, but people really like it. Then we've got Although, of course, You End Up Becoming Yourself by David Lipsky, which is a kind of transcription of his conversations with David Foster Wallace. There's a film based on this called The End of the Tour that I really, really love. It's one of my favourite films, and this book is a really good companion piece to read, whilst you've kind of seen the film as well. Lots of really just good bits of them talking in this. It's really quite nice, and I recommend it. Then we've got Infinite Jest. We've actually got the David Foster Wallace section of the bookshelf, to my shame. We've got Infinite Jest. We've got The Pale King. We've got Consider the Lobster, which is one of his collections of essays. We've got Brief Interviews with Hideous Men, which I've not read. A Supposedly Fun Thing You'll Never Do Again, another collection of essays that I strongly recommend. There's really good stuff in here. And then we've got The Broom of the System, which I don't really remember a ton of this book. It's very, very postmodern. But I'd say of everything that I've got of David Foster Wallace, his collections of essays are two really, really good books. If you like reading essays, if you like reading, a really specific tone of voice and a specific character, and if you want to be inside somebody's head, these two books are really, really good. Then we've got Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, one of my favourite books of all time. Then we've got Streets of Laredo by Larry McMurtry. Then we've got Dead Man's Walk by Larry McMurtry. I think I just need to read Ah, that's it. I just need to read Comanche Moon now, and I've finished The Lonesome Dove 4-piece, whatever it's called. Honestly, I love Larry McMurtry, and I love those books, and I love those characters. So if you want to read a good Western novel, and if you want to commit to something really big and chunky, do read Lonesome Dove. Everybody loves it, and they love it for a really good reason. Nosferatu by Joe Hill. Haven't read it yet. Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. Haven't read it yet. I have read Inherent Vice by him and really enjoyed it. It's just a big postmodern book that you've really got to be in the headspace for, and I probably never will be. But we're hanging on to it just in case. Then we've got Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. I've read No Country for Old Men and The Road, and I really enjoyed both of them. I tried reading this, I think, when I was maybe a little bit too young and couldn't quite get into it, but now that I'm a big, like, you know, American West head, maybe I'll enjoy it. I mean, you know, people do absolutely adore this book, so I'm sure there's going to be something in here that I like. Days of Our End by Sebastian Stan. This is one that my friend lent me, and I just still haven't got round to reading yet. I will do it. I will read this book, and then we'll have something to talk about. And then we've got Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail that we mentioned earlier. And that is the bookshelf. And I did it in 33 minutes, and hopefully once I've edited this down, it'll be something like 20. There it is. That's just kind of a whistle-stop tour of everything on our shelf. I'd say I've maybe read, I want to say like 50% of the bookshelf so far, maybe. There's a lot of books I've hung on to just because they meant a lot to me, or because I want to give them to someone, or because I want to do something with it someday. But there is a lot on here that I haven't read, and I think before I buy another book, I should just look at the bookshelf and think, is there really nothing on here that I'm going to read next before buying something? But if you enjoyed this video, do let me know. Give me a like, give me a comment. Let me know if there's anything on the shelf that you like the look of, or that you've read, that you strongly recommend that I haven't read yet. And yeah, thanks for watching. This has been good fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye, 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 bye.